Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing another movie review. This movie is a horror film from the USA, English language, released in the year 2019, directed by Nicholas McCarthy, and this film is called The Prodigy. So The Prodigy is about this husband and wife. They have recently fallen pregnant. They're very excited about this because it's taken quite a while to actually fall pregnant. So the success has really excited them. They give birth to this wonderful baby, and it's a baby boy, and he appears to be very healthy, and he's very, very intelligent. His intelligence is increasing a lot more rapidly than normal, and so they believe that they've got a really special boy. But then the further he grows, the more disturbing behaviour starts to come about, which really starts to make these parents uncomfortable. So they take him to the doctor. They say that his progression in his learning might have something to do with it. He's just a very different boy, don't think anything of it. But then as it starts to become more and more sinister, this is where danger starts to set in, and there could be something a little bit more to this child than they first thought, which could lead them down a nightmare. So what that nightmare is and whether or not they're in danger is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on The Prodigy. As far as horror films concerning young children are concerned, there have been many. There's been the Omen, which is an absolute classic. You've got Children of the Corn. You've also got more recently Orphan, which I thought was a fantastic horror film. And it's just that nature of children and youth and innocence being corrupted to a point where it's kind of like a cautionary tale. Be careful of your children, because although they appear harmless, they are in fact capable of so much more. And so I think it is a very good horror sort of story. It's sort of like a horror subgenre, and there have been lots. Some of them haven't been so good, but then, as I said, the classics such as The Omen I thought was absolutely fantastic. And it's just that cautionary tale of bringing up your children in the right manner and what would happen if they actually went down the wrong path. And so coming into The Prodigy, I was actually expecting something of a rehash of The Omen, a rehash of Orphan, just films that have come before it. Is because in a lot of these subgenres you get something that's inspired this subgenre, and it doesn't really steer too far away from that source material. And so I always thought as though a lot of these subgenres, they're actually paying homage to what's inspired them, and it doesn't really create anything new. But what I liked about The Prodigy the most is that it's actually trying something new, and I actually thought the story was really good. The story was very sinister, and I thought that this is a very, very creepy film. It's got an absolutely wonderful score. The soundtrack to this film was brilliant. I really, really liked it, and it just added to a film that was really, really entertaining. It's not the best film ever made, but as far as these children gone bad horror subgenre, I believe that The Prodigy is at least trying something different. Yes, it does have shades of The Omen. It has shades of Orphan. It has shades of films that have clearly inspired this movie, but it's trying to have a heartbeat of its own, and that's what I can applaud Nicholas McCarthy most for in this film, is that he's not just recycling material that's been done over and over. Basically, you've seen one, you've seen them more. I think this movie has enough spirit of its own to warrant it a viewing. Whether or not you're going to want to view it again, I'm not sure, but I just thought this movie has a very dark heart, and that dark heart mixes in with the story very well, and the story is very captivating. And I'm not going to tell you anything about the story, so I don't want to give anything away, but it is a little bit different to what you would be expecting coming into the film. And so I thought my first impressions didn't really last. And then as Nicholas McCarthy takes you down this very dark journey, I wasn't quite sure where the story was going. Although there are elements in the film that were a little bit predictable, which is my criticism, I still thought the overall story was different enough to actually make it worth the watch, and it gives the movie a purpose for existing. And so I thought the cinematography was excellent. It's a very dark film, it's a very cruel film, and it's not promising a fairy tale. And that's something I like in these movies that are a little bit harder than usual. It actually gives you the impression that, okay, maybe this movie is not going to have a happy ending. Maybe this movie is not going to be cliched, where the good guy always wins. And so leaving that up in the air, it does create a sense of suspense, and I thought the suspense works very well. And the reason why the suspense works well is that the young actor playing this boy was absolutely fantastic. He has the childhood innocence. He has that innocence of growing up. And then as he starts to develop this sinister side, I thought to myself, all right, well, this young innocent being that you wouldn't associate with violence, you wouldn't associate with fear, was actually quite fearful. And he was actually quite creepy. And I thought there were some set pieces that were absolutely fantastic as far as horror is concerned. concerned. I think Nicholas McCarthy really has a fine eye for horror in creating a moment, and some of these moments I thought really crept under my skin and really freaked me out, and that's something I appreciated about it the most, is that the minor details combine to make an overall film that, because it does the minor things very well, it basically adds up to something far bigger. And that big quality that the movie has is that absorbing atmosphere. And so cinematography is great, the acting was very good, especially that young child. The rest of the cast do a decent job. I thought the mother was very good. The chemistry within the family was there, and as their torment as to what to do about this child. Is this child, sinister, or is in fact it's just this growing up and basically the nurturing of a child, and should you discipline them more or what? Yeah, as I said, it's a cautionary tale of raising a child, and then as I said, it's got the Omen sort of homage to it. It could possibly be supernatural. So there's a lot of elements that make it very uncertain, and the uncertainty creates a curiosity, and that's ultimately what you need for a film to maintain that level of intrigue. And so I think it does that very well. I thought the runtime was fantastic. As I said, the set pieces, some of them were fantastic. Some of the camera angles were very, very chilling, and I thought it was actually quite brutal in parts. The violence is actually quite cruel. And so if you are into that, then I definitely think The Prodigy is for you. And so the end I thought was fantastic. I really like the way that this movie finished, and it will remind you of other films that have come before it that's clearly inspired The Prodigy. And so overall, I thought that, as I said, the only problems I have with the film is that although the story is very intriguing and something a little bit different, there are some cliched sort of plot devices as the movie goes on. And I thought to myself, okay, although it's not bad, I've seen that sort of thing before. And so yes, it does have a different sort of approach to the evil child sort of subgenre, but it does go down similar paths to other films that you've seen before. And so when you see the film, you'll know what I mean. I have to be very careful not to give anything away. But yeah, pushing that negative aside, I still thought The Prodigy is a movie that really surprised me. I ended up really liking it. As I said, I love the soundtrack. Have a listen to the soundtrack on YouTube. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And when you listen to the soundtrack, that basically sums up the mood that The Prodigy produces. And so this is a movie that I enjoyed a lot more than I thought I would. I thought it was a very, very good horror film, and as a result of that, I want to give The Prodigy 4 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.